All right, welcome into another episode of Who's Got Next, your Michigan recruiting podcast on Maize and Blue Review on the Rivals Network. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Justice. I'm the senior editor with Maize and Blue Review, and I'm joined by Zach Libby, per usual, our recruiting editor at MBR. Today is Monday, the first day of the season, quote unquote. I know it's not the game yet, but we're now in game week, and that's not so much so relevant to recruiting because high school got started over the past weekend in Michigan, but has started elsewhere already. And with that in mind, Zach, you've been at so many games and in various places, seeing big time recruits, maybe not as big time recruits, but recruits all the same. So you've been covering ground and seeing the country and seeing the talent that may or may not be coming to Ann Arbor soon. So today we are talking about those trips you took. We're recapping everything that Zach saw on the road, a few of his observations at the many places he's been, from Chicago to North Carolina and all the way back around. Your gas tank failed you once or twice. You still made it. You still pushed. You're a grinder unlike any other, in my opinion. And with that, Zach, how are you? And let's talk about recruiting.
No, it's good to be home. 3 weeks of traveling the country, no less, was a grind, but something that had to be done, and we enjoyed it every day. So it was good getting out of Michigan for a little bit and seeing the guys that are highly, highly prioritized by Michigan, and it was good to see them face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went many, many places. We'll start with the one nearby, Chicago. That feels like an eternity ago to you, probably by now. I know we've briefly touched on the Chicago trip as it is, but go ahead and recap through what you saw there, what you learned. I know last time we spoke, you told us about the first practice you saw in Chicago, and then the other side, you had an opportunity to go see a game the next day. So talk a little bit about your observations down there in the Windy City.
Yeah, so we saw three 2024 recruits and a 2023 tight end commits. Um, we can start off with the commit, Deacon Ali of Oswego, Illinois. Um, Committed back in June, which kind of jump started I guess the renaissance, I guess you could say, of the summer where Michigan was able to grab 9 recruits since the mid June. So Deacon was the first to do so. Yeah, we saw him practice. It was good to just spend a good 10 minutes with him after practice was over. No, he just talked about how Michigan was provided everything that he wanted. He mentioned Purdue and Illinois is also great visits, but his relationship with Grant Newsome, learning more about Jim Harbaugh during his official visit, and I guess just seeing everything that was needed to be seen throughout all of his visits, which included an Ohio State game, camping last summer, and then ultimately the OV. Tony Elliott compared Harbaugh to his head coach at Oswego, just based on personalities and coaching philosophies. So he really felt that connection where nothing would be changed in terms of culture. But yeah, Grant Newsome sees him as an H-back as he begins to transition to the next level. With more time, we'll see him more flexed out to the Y, given that he's 6'5" and about 215. So he has the ability to stand out even on the outside or as a slot. So no, he will be developed well under Newsome. He knows that. Newsome's excited to work with him along with Zach Marshall, the other tight end commits. So yeah, 2 years in a row that Michigan was able to land 2 tight ends. So great work by Newsome to just flex his muscles on the recruiting trail and show his age and how well he's able to connect with these recruits. With the 24s, we'll start off first with Marquise Lightfoot. He is a Rivals 250 edge out of Kenwood Academy. Lightfoot was important to see because, for one, he just visited for the barbecue like 2 weeks after we traveled out there. He also visited for the spring game, but there's a different vibe for each visit because, for one, he didn't have the offer during the spring game, but during the barbecue, he really felt like a priority target for Dylan Roney in particular. Lightfoot in general has just gotten so much exposure and hype on the recruiting trail since the Rivals Underclassmen Challenge, which took place in June. At the time, he was a 3-star, not really highly considered on a national scale, But during that Rivals Underclassmen Challenge down in Atlanta, he didn't lose a single rep. And that's important because he was going up against other 23 and 24 commits, 24 recruits who were also among, 4 stars in the Rivals 250 and even Rivals 100. So to lose not a single rep was just eye-opening. It just blew everyone away. But, for those who are in the Midwest, it didn't catch him by surprise at all. So, yeah, he quickly earned that 4-star and is number 120 in the country right now. So schools that have offered before, or maybe weren't giving him so much of a look, are now doing so, and that includes Michigan. Roney sees him, Marquise, in a role like Aiden Hutchinson, which Marquise really, really wants to hear because he emulates Aiden Hutchinson. He watched every game of Michigan last year and sees the similarities in how they rush the quarterback and, their tendencies and everything. So he's one to look out for in terms of a future visit like Penn State or Michigan State. If Roney feels this high about him early on, that's good because look for more schools outside of the Midwest to really jump into the race for him. I'm Marion Stewart. He's another Rivals 250 athlete. He is a wide receiver. He just visited for the barbecue as well, so it was great to catch up with him as soon as we did. He's out of Bolingbrook, which is about 10 minutes east of Oswego. Marion has, been regarded as one of those players where if he visits a camp or a off-season showcase, he ends up being the best player regardless of position. Super kind, super humble, but on the football field, he's a dog. He plays for a program that has long been regarded as one of the best in the entire area of Chicago. His brother, actually, Aishan, is a transfer at Eastern Michigan, originally from Oregon State. So in terms of that little factor, Amarion could be in the Ann Arbor area as many as 6 or 7 times a year, depending on how many home games Eastern Michigan has. So that'll give him more comfort with that general area. But with Michigan, no, he visited for the barbecue for the first time. He got really super close with Ron Bellamy. He knows that Bellamy is going to be blowing up his phone in about 3 days during September 1st. Like Marquise Lightfoot, he wants to visit for one of those marquee games like Michigan State or Penn State. So we've talked about so many times how those two games in particular are going to be huge recruiting weekends. So, Chicago is going to have a good representation. And then finally, Justin Scott. I have mentioned about Justin as arguably one of the best defensive line prospects to ever come out of Chicago this century. It's too early to say that he will be the best of all time, even when dating back the century prior. This city has developed so many great high school athletes like Donovan McNabb or Kellen Winslow Sr. or like Kevin Green. But no, Justin has about 2 full years of football experience and has just now gotten a 5-star, which happened today. So that was well-deserved in terms of just how it is his overall hype on a national basis and just his trajectory as a top defensive tackle at the next level. So Michigan is firmly aware of this. They have Sharon Moore and Mike Elston going after Justin Scott. He did not visit for the barbecue, which was expected of him, but due to family matters, that didn't happen. So he's expecting to prioritize a Michigan visit. I would not be surprised if we see him on the sidelines for a Hawaii game or really any game for this September, because he wants to get there as soon as possible, because all the other schools that are really going after him and his overall interest, he's been before. So just to have him on campus will really make a difference in just Michigan's positioning for this kid. If you want to check out highlights of Scott, I posted 40 seconds of it on the Rivals page. They posted something on Twitter yesterday. It's only 40 seconds, but it really catches the glimpse of just how powerful and how dominant this kid is. So, this would be just a high get for Michigan.
All right. So with Chicago in mind, and I'm trying to get you out of the solo screen there for those watching. So with Chicago in mind, and I think I agree with you on the defensive end, saw the highlights. He's pretty ridiculous with the upside there. I I know you saw a few places. We'll trim it down a bit. We'll go to a commit right now. Evan Link, who you were able to see first. Was that your first live look at him? It had to be your first live look at him in game, right?
Yeah, that was a live look for anybody. That's why everyone was there for that game. There's another player there that we'll talk about in a little bit, but yeah, Link. Before his game, we had the privilege. Maize and Blue Review had the privilege of sitting down with Link one on one, which was, such a big deal for our eyes because for one, he doesn't do media interviews and he doesn't go out of his way to do media interviews over the phone. So if you want to talk to him, it's got to be in person, essentially. So to get that time with him, and we spent about 30 minutes just conversing was just huge, and just getting to know him and his decision and how it all came to be, because really all we knew was he went to the barbecue the 2 days before the barbecue, and then went home and then just committed on, just posted his commitment on Twitter. So there wasn't a lead up in the beginning, before the event, that he was going to be in attendance. This was kind of an unexpected arrival. In regards to Link, though, yeah, he visited on Friday and Saturday because the barbecue was on Sunday. However, he had a mandatory team mass event, so he had to go to that instead. But during Friday and Saturday, both Sherrill Moore and Grant Newsome gave him a private tour around the campus and facilities. Newsome was the first to really start that relationship because, for one, Newsome's brother actually attending Gonzaga College, which is the current school for Link, so there's that connection. But yeah, Moore quickly caught on and, showed out his personality and just his influence as, a personable coach and someone who cares about his players on and off the field, which Link obviously appreciates. He flew out there. So Sunday morning before his team events on Sunday, he was sitting like on his front porch, like mulling it over, like, should I just shut it down now or continue looking? But, he thought, like, I've seen enough of Michigan. This is the place where I need to be. And he called both Moore and Newsome Sunday morning. And the reception was just, excitement. And obviously this is a big deal because he's the first offensive tackle commit after what was one of the best offensive line performances for Michigan in quite some time with the Joe Moore Award. So getting someone outside of Amir Herring, especially that close after the barbecue, was huge. In terms of Link's connections to Michigan, he is friends with Tristan Bounds because they have the same trainer, like offensive line trainer, that works with kids down in the DMV. So Bounds has been able to like message him, and they've been able to talk in person about what it's like being at Michigan and what it's like to just be developed as an offensive line despite not being a starter, because, Bounds doesn't start, but the experience that Bounds has told Link, especially about just going after like Aiden Hutchinson and losing, like there's so much to learn and, learn and take from going up against some of the best college football players in the country. So only that can be done at Michigan, from Bounds' eyes and certainly Link's eyes if he commits. He really only really knows Zach Marshall, considering that they've had dinner together at the barbecue. Marshall obviously is the latest one to commit right after Link, so they've been able to know each other. Amir Herring actually reached out to Link right after Herring committed. So this was like the few weeks in between Herring's commitment and Link's commitment. So Herring, as the ambassador and the program face, the future program face of this football team, just quick recaps of just why he commits and why Moore is the best developer for their position. So I think Link really learned a lot from Herring's conversation. And then, Friday's game. We were there. That was their first game that Michigan rival that Maize and Blue Review covered. So that was a big deal for us. And it was also big because Link was going up against arguably the best 23 commit recruits.
It's actually a false statistic, by the way.
What?
I covered a game. I covered several games last year.
I meant the first game of the 2022 season.
You're good. I know what you meant.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually was going to post something on that Friday, be like, first game ever. And I was like, wait a minute, Brandon last year. That doesn't make sense. So, yeah. So,
yeah, I wasted my time going to see Dante Moore. I know who that
yeah,
guy
I
is.
know. You're the first one. I got to respect that. I know.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
First game of the 2022 season. Gonzaga College versus Archbishop Carroll. Link was playing against Nyckoles Harbor, who is the 5-star athlete and arguably probably the top person on the boards right now that's uncommitted. No, Link and Harbor were able to go up against each other on several series, and that was good to watch. Just Link's ability to like bend and move his feet and be that wall and anchor at the left tackle position against, this machine of an edge rusher. Harbor was able to get to Link at a couple times, even the sack, but there was times where Link was just driving kids to the ground, and it was just great. It was just good to see how Link can hold his own against who was considered the top athlete in the country. So that was fun to watch, and it just shows how Link has been able to just develop on his own, and what we'll see in the next 3 years.
All right, yeah. So that was, I think you had a good choice in picking out Link to go see first this year. I think everyone was extremely curious about him and what that looked like on the field versus what we had heard in recruiting and the leaps he had made in a year's time from last year too. Just a lot of unknowns, not to mention the story of it all on top of the technical side of things with the performance on field, but also the recruiting and how he got to that point. So moving on from that, we will get to a little bit of the main event. We'll talk about Providence Day. I know that is the topic of conversation among Michigan recruiting over the past, I would say the whole summer would be fair, the whole summer. And that's probably going to stretch into next year as well. So going to see Providence Day was huge for you. You took that trip down there. 5-star quarterback Jadyn Davis is there. He's the one everyone wants. He's the perceived, I guess, baton holder of what people envision JJ McCarthy handing him off to. Potentially a guy who might be put in a situation that if Jadyn Davis were to come to Michigan, potentially could be in this position to where he'd have to play as a freshman if JJ's not here anymore, because by then JJ will have the option to go if this all plays out the way we think. And Alex Orji and Jaden Denegal are two guys that people aren't so sure on. So if Jadyn Davis comes in, there's a lot of potential he starts as a true freshman. We're in a day and age where true freshmen starting quarterbacks isn't uncommon. To go to Providence Day, you see Davis, you saw his teammates as well, who are primary targets. So talk about that, recap it a little bit, and give us your eye and your vision through Providence Day over the weekend.
Yeah, so we'll go through each of the 5 guys that are currently offered by Michigan. We'll start first with Davis, the 5-star quarterback, number 8 in the country right now. Rivals just updated that Rivals 250 ranking. We like 2 hours after we actually recorded this. Davis, we were able to confirm that Davis will be at the Hawaii game on September 10th. So this is huge, just considering that Davis has been at Michigan 3 times since June. So it just shows how interested this kid is in the Wolverines and how they're perceived front runners at this point. I know that people were hoping that Davis might be committed by now, given that there are 2 other top 5 quarterbacks in the 24 class that are committed as well, including one at Ohio State. So there was, I guess, hope, or the anticipation that maybe Davis will get on the group and start recruiting. But just talking with him last week, he understands that schools are going to ask him like, hey, like why don't you commit now and do what was just aforementioned said about recruiting and being that face of the program. But Davis has pretty much thought it all through this entire process that he wants to extend it at least through this fall season, even into late spring. Obviously, he wants to be committed at this time next year, but just having this more time to do some soul searching and seeing more schools and developing more of a relationship with coaches and seeing how everything transpires once September 1st hits, that's a big deal for him. So I'm not going to stress enough of how important of an influence his commitment would be to Michigan, just from a mechanic standpoint on the field, and just his overall presence as a personable person, and just everyone gravitating towards him as just a mentor and a like I said, influencer. So it would be great to have him on board. But like I said, I do not expect September 10th to arrive and he commits. If he does, that's awesome. But I'm firm on the belief that he's going to ride this through. But it can't hurt Michigan chances, obviously, if he's there 3 times in 3 months. So clearly, there's some interest. There's clearly high interest, and Michigan's going to continue, stepping up levels once they're able to contact him directly. The second one, Chris Peel, the 3-star cornerback. He's the only 23 recruit to be offered by Michigan from Providence Day. He will be officially visiting on the 17th, which is the UConn game. This will be his second time visiting. He was the first at the barbecue with 3 other teammates, including Davis. But this will be different for Peel because he's probably going to go alone this time outside of his mother. There's, I wouldn't say agreement, but there's a belief that, the kids below him, like Davis and Jordan Shipp and Channing Goodwin, which we'll talk about after this, that they want Peel to experience Michigan for himself and not be surrounding himself with other people. They want the date of the weekend to be just for Chris. And I think that just shows how great of teammates and friends they are. So to do that for him, Peel, he has been said by Steve Klingsdale, that he is a main priority target at the cornerback position. Javian Toviano is another one, but yeah, Peel is at the top in terms of just how wanted he is at Michigan, and Klingsdale has remained firm in that belief to him throughout the late spring and summer. So Peel obviously knows how much Michigan wants him, outside of just creating that possible pipeline with the rest of the 24 class. Peel is as a talent in of himself. I know he's going to play cornerback, but he's a dangerous weapon as a wide receiver as well. Like I said, he's going to go alone. He wants to see the game day atmosphere. He wants to see what it's like at the big house after seeing it empty. And since it's the UConn game, I'm sure he's going to see a win, so that will only help. The next one, Jordan Shipp, Rivals 250 wide receiver, 4-star. He is one that is probably the most outgoing out of all of them, in terms of just being a community leader, a mentor for younger kids, and just, stepping up on social media and, letting fans know what's going on. Shipp is someone who went to both trips, starting in June and then the barbecue. He absolutely loves the atmosphere of Michigan. He loves, the time that he tried on the uniforms, which was just mind-blowing for him, that he got to try on the Jordan brand. Got to meet with Bellamy some more, Ron Bellamy. Bellamy really loves the idea of the tandem between him and Channing Goodwin, who is also a teammate of his. He thinks their chemistry together would just be perfect at Michigan, and I agree. Before the barbecue actually happened, Shipp and a few of his other teammates were able to have dinner with Bellamy and Fred Moore and Samaj Morgan, the other 23 wide receiver commits. They came as well. So it was good for Shipp and Goodwin in particular, just build on their early friendship with Fred and Samaj and let the other two explain to them why they believed in Bellamy and why they believed Michigan was a great place for them to develop as wideouts. So that was good for them to see. Another thing about why Shipp really likes Michigan, which is something you don't really hear much, he plans on returning to his college wherever he commits. He wants to be a coach. So not like a head coach. He wants to get his foot in the door and work his way up as like an analyst or something. But he wants to go to a place where like a school is, on board or prioritizes former players coming back as coaches. And, Michigan has had so many guys come back, like, Denard Robinson or Chris Bryant in particular, like those guys, and Bellamy, like, and Mike Hart, and I can just go on, and Newsome, but those guys, played at Michigan, come back, and Shipp really likes that idea of, being a former player but turned coach, because he wants to, give back to the school that did so much for him as a player. So that's one thing to look out for. I think Michigan has an edge on that for that reason. And no, we'll see. We'll definitely see Ship back this fall. Game hasn't been decided, but we'll see them back. And then not finally, Channing Goodwin, the legacy wide receiver. He's a 3-star. He is unique in the sense that he is the son of Jonathan Goodwin, Super Bowl champion winner, 13-year NFL pro, played in Michigan in the 90s. Jonathan is actually the O-line coach at Providence Day, so it was actually kind of fun to see Jonathan go play on scout team during live drills. So you can just see, like, a decade later, Goodwood can still go. But no, Channing is knows that he has the opportunity to continue that legacy that his dad built, but also his uncle, Harold Goodwin, who also played at Michigan. But what's different with Jonathan, I guess, compared to like other dads, is that he hasn't been influencing the decision in terms of where his son or the other teammates go. Obviously, the Michigan connection is there, and Jonathan has been there twice. But no, he hasn't been in the ear of them to say, like, go to Michigan. Like, he will let them choose their own path. And I think Channing definitely appreciates that. In terms of just the coaches, like I said, Bellamy is really likes, as we're teammates with Jonathan in the past, so they're friends. But no, he really likes Channing's ability to just create in space and pick up yardage after the catch. Like, I think that's what sets him apart, Channing as a wideout, like his ability to just extend plays with his own feet and playmaking ability. So, we have future casts on him, but we'll wait and see what happens. And then finally, David Sanders Jr. He is a lone 2025 recruit of Providence State to have a Michigan offer. He's the only one that has yet to visit Michigan. But to have him on campus would probably be bigger than, let's say, Jadyn Davis, because for one, David Sanders might be the number one overall recruit when it's all said and done by rivals. Like, 6'7", over 250 pounds of lean muscle. Like, there's not an ounce of fat on this kid. The amount of room that he can grow in terms of weight is just eye-opening. No, he is considered by his teammates to be like the most feared player in high school football. Like, even them won't bother testing him because they know what the result's going to be. Even though Sanders is like considered the little brother, he's the more athletic, the more dominating, and the more feared little brother. So it just shows how much respect he has at Providence State and how much respect he has in North Carolina and nationally. No, like I said, he's going to be a top recruit, probably number one, maybe. And I think Michigan knows that, and they're probably going to get him up very soon. If that means going up with his teammates, then that'll be great. He has talked with Sherome Moore over the phone twice. He has met Mike Elson once when Elson went down to the school during the spring eval period. So he has an idea of what the coaches are like, but obviously he wants to go up there in person to really get a feel of their personalities and their approaches to recruiting, especially Sherome Moore. He really likes the idea that they just won the Joe Moore Award. He obviously likes the idea to play for a team that just went to the college football playoff. But more importantly, he wants to meet Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh had about 2-hour meetings with these guys in the past visits. So Jordan, Channing, and Chris and Jadyn have just said how, Harbaugh's personality is something you just got to know, like see in person. Like, you can't understand him over the phone or on TV. So that's something that Sanders really looks forward to doing. And then finally, he's when he gets up there, he wants that family vibe. Older brother of like 4 sisters, 2-parent households. So he's one that, he wants to go to a school that the coaches consider him to have like a son role, and the players consider him to be the younger brother. So I think Michigan is, their culture fits that. And I think, having Sanders up there for the first time will just be another step to continue with that pipeline beyond the 2024 class.
All right. So with all that information on the biggest, I guess, area for Michigan recruiting over the next 2 years, probably would be that spot, right? Would you argue that?
I think North Carolina. I think that school is just an anomaly for North Carolina. Like,
right, but that specific school is probably Michigan's most important connection over the next 2 years in Michigan recruiting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Anything outside of outside of in-state, yeah, that's it. So it's considered like a domino effect where like if they get one, there's a good chance that the others will follow because they have routinely expressed interest in teaming up together. So since Michigan's offered all five and they're all close, there's that chance. So that's something really to look out for. And I think Michigan fans who are really into recruiting also realize that. So, it really starts September 10th when Jadyn Davis comes up. So we'll know more about what transpires, especially this fall.
All right, let's wrap this up with a pretty huge fish in what is also an extremely large pond in the national recruiting world. But you saw Nyckoles Harbor, or however, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but you saw Harbor. Talk about what you saw there. Is he exactly what they say he is? What are the odds he ends up in Michigan? 2 questions everyone wants to know.
All right, so let's talk about position fit. He has the ability to play tight end, flex out to the outside, and then on defense, he can be an edge rusher or even a tight end. In my opinion, based on film, based on what I've seen at Friday, which is a small sample, but just based on film alone, I think he's more suited to make millions as an edge rusher. He would argue that his track times and his, I guess, how he fits as a speed guy would probably fit as a tight end. Unfortunately, if you saw what happened at that game, if you follow Adam Freeman of Rivals.com, he was there too, and he posted that video of Harbor running into the goalposts. Like, he was down for a good minute in the first quarter. And surprisingly, he continued playing. Now, I don't know if that affected his play in terms of just physical and mental health. But, if let's say that did, that's last week's game just doesn't show how elite this kid is. As an edge rusher, he needs to get more of a pass rush, set outside of just a bull rush. But at the high school level, all he really needs is a bull rush because he's the strongest kid out there. As a tight end, he's faster than anyone on the field. At the high school level, you need at least 3 guys to cover him. So he has that attraction to where you can let other players on the same team to have opportunities because the other team is so focused on Harbor. But he does need to learn route running, be a better route runner. He also needs to have better hands. Relying on the speed will only get him so far. Like if he goes to like a school like Michigan, he's going to have to face someone like Ohio State who routinely develops cornerbacks to the NFL on a yearly basis. And, once you get to that point, you have cornerbacks who can easily tail faster guys and disrupt the plays. So it doesn't really matter if someone like Harbor is 6'5" and 230. But no, I strongly consider Harbor. I know he's not listening to this, but he definitely has more potential to go to where he wants to be in his football career as an edge rusher. Schools are going to take him regardless. Like Michigan will take him if he's firm set on tight end or if he's not. Like that doesn't matter. Michigan's going to get the guy and then they'll worry about positioning later. But yeah, this is a Ron Bellamy led recruitment because he has one of his recruiting areas is the DMV along with the Deep South. So he's really, taking the lead and just letting Harbor know that he has his preference and, how wanted he is at the school. In terms of just where Michigan is seated in the race, if he had to commit right now, I would say LSU, but we're in September. We're at the end point of August, and this could last until signing day. So there's time, but yeah, LSU is someone to look out for really 2 reasons. NIL, LSU has really embraced that. Brian Kelly has embraced that. So, and it shows with them being ranked number 5 in the country for the 23 recruiting class, and that their track team is better. We know about Harbor's track times. We know that he wants to be an Olympian someday. So If he wants to focus that, if he wants to be a professional runner or a professional Olympic athlete, going to LSU will be better for his nurturing and his development on the AstroTurf. Education is in favor of Michigan, obviously. His dad's a NASA engineer and his mom works in a pharmacy. I think he wants to go into like neuroscience in college, and obviously Michigan has a program for that. So academics is, there's 9-day compared to LSU. Connections too go in favor of Michigan. His track coach at Archbishop Carroll actually graduated from Michigan. He has family ties in the entire state. And then Archbishop Carroll's athletic director is actually Brian Ellerby, who coached the men's basketball team in the late 90s and early 2000s. So, if he can see what his mentors right now, like his track coach and his athletic director, having their ties with Michigan, maybe he can see like, hey, if they're successful and because of Michigan, like why can't that happen to me? So, OV for Michigan will be September 24th for the Maryland game. He actually confirmed that right after the football game on Friday, so that was big. There was talks that he was going to fit something in between South Carolina and LSU, but that was just a rumor. So now that it's official, that's huge. The only ones that are guaranteed are South Carolina on the 16th, and then LSU that was supposed to be for the 7th, but I think he has to reschedule that one. What's different with Harbor in terms of his fall schedule is that most of Archbishop Carroll's games are on Saturdays, like in the afternoons. Friday's game last week was sort of an anomaly. That's kind of led his availability for this fall is just so limited because of that. If he has to miss high school games to go to OVs, that would be something to look out for. But there isn't any talk of that happening. So the only game right now besides last week that's being played on Friday is the Michigan OV. So right then, Michigan has more time to work with and be with Harbor compared to, let's say, South Carolina, who only has one night. For Harbor to just get up there in the morning at the very least on Saturday or even as late as Friday night to have that extended time is huge. And for him to make that time available for Michigan just shows that he's still very interested. I know that the LSU thing was sort of a rumor brought on social media. After people I've talked to, NIL and track team are very big key factors. Education is going to be one too. But if he wants to prioritize track, then I would imagine LSU is firmly in the race. But we'll know more after these OVs for sure.
All right. So speaking of OVs, you took what seems like so many OVs yourself since taking this job as the recruiting editor at Maize and Blue Review. My cat Acuna was a guest today. I told you before the show that he would find a way to make some noise during the show. Luckily, I was already on mute when it happened, but he was definitely making himself known. But I appreciate your time, Zach, recapping everything here in the Michigan recruiting world. We will be doing this weekly every Tuesday. Again, that's starting this week. It was bi-weekly before this, but it will now be weekly from here on out. So we will talk to you guys next Tuesday. We have a special show coming out this week. So I actually lied when I said see you next Tuesday. I meant see you tomorrow because Ari Wasserman will be on a special episode on Wednesday that's coming out. And he's from The Athletic, and he gives a unique perspective on the other side of things, what Michigan recruiting looks like to those who are experts in it in the external part of the world, so not in the Michigan world. So a lot of things he didn't know about Michigan, a lot of things I didn't really think about in terms of Michigan recruiting, just because we think we know everything about what Michigan does naturally. So hearing someone propose other things makes you think a little bit. So I think that'll be a good episode and a good conversation piece. So, Zach, appreciate all your intel today. Make sure you guys follow Zach at Rivals Libby on Twitter. Make sure you sign up, michigan.rivals.com/sign_up, and get ready for the season. I mean, we're only, at this point, when you guys are listening to this, we're only 4 days away from the first game of the season, and you're going to want that intel on Sundays, Mondays, and every day that ends in Y from now, hopefully forever, but at least through the season. So, We will talk to you guys tomorrow when you hear from myself and Ari Wasserman. But for Zach and Libby, I'm Brandon Justice. We will talk to you guys on the board and enjoy the rest of your week.